Hey guys. Trying out our first live video today, I guess. If you don't count the beach video we did on election day, which I hope you guys enjoyed. We're gonna try and keep this short and sweet, but first of all, thanks for joining us. Um, and Big reason we wanted to do this, if you're on the BA Strategies page and you scroll down, you'll see something we posted on Monday. It's an article from Mashable. It was talking about, Google sort of changing the way they think about mobile sites. If you're in, the marketing space at all, you definitely understand the value of being important to Google. Search engine optimization. It's a big buzzword. It's also a big driver of traffic and people. Basically, if you're in with Google, it can really help your business. Like I said, there's an article on Mashable that'll go into a little more detail, but we'll be hitting on some of those points today. We're going to keep this short and sweet, and it's not going to be too technical because this isn't really for, like, if you're a developer or something like that. Like, we're not going to go into the ins and outs too much, but this is for the consumer. If you're wondering why you need a mobile site, if you don't have one or it's not what you want it to be. But basically what we need to start off with, we're talking about mobile web design or responsive web design. So first of all, what that is it's a site. Take the BA Strategies site, for example, not just pandering for clicks here, but it is something, it's an example you guys can see that it looks one way on desktop. And then as you scale the screen down, and you can even try this with like a browser window on your laptop, just moving the width of the screen, all right, it will adjust the layout of the page accordingly, right? And then so as you get down to a mobile phone size, it'll be optimized for that space. So, if you, again, to use our site as an example, if you look sort of the second section there on our site, it has the different services in a row that we provide, but then as we get down to mobile, it stacks those because it's a better viewing experience when someone's holding a phone like this, and it looks slightly different when they're holding it, in landscape mode, or if they're on a tablet, or if they're on a desktop. So that's what we're talking about, and we'll get into a little later. It's actually one of the questions that was submitted to us, the difference between a mobile site and a responsive site. But first and foremost, I think the big question is, why do you need one? All right. Now, there are two types of people that can use this information. It's either people that, one, don't have a website at all and want to know, which steps they need to take when they're, creating a site. Or two, it's people who already have a site, but that site isn't mobile optimized. So first, to sort of speak to those people who maybe just have a website that they built a few years ago, but it's not optimized for mobile, it's not responsive. The long and short of it is it doesn't look good. It's hard to use. And so when when someone goes onto your site, if they're having to pinch and scroll and move around just to click the links in the navigation bar or see what a picture looks like, or worse, read your text and know what the heck's going on, that's going to be a problem because people are more likely to leave your site if that's what's going on. And that's called bounce rate, which if anybody uses Google Analytics, you'll see that. The more people that hit your site, decide that they don't want to stay there for very long and leave, is going to hurt. It's going to hurt how much Google values your site in some respects. And it's going to hurt the ability of someone to come back. They're less likely to come back to your site if they know they can't do it on their phone. And I mean, think about this from your own perspective. Don't just think about this as why I should do it. But imagine going to sites that you've been to and having to pinch and zoom around, and you try to hit one link, but you end up hitting another one because, let's face it, your thumbs aren't tiny, and you end up on a different page and everything's loading a little slower. How likely are you to say, you know what, this really matters to me, I'm going to go check it out on my laptop or desktop when I get home? Maybe you will. Maybe it's something you absolutely have to have. But maybe it's not. And that's why, that's one of the big reasons that having a mobile site is so important. And as we'll talk about a little later, there's some statistics that there are some people that aren't even going to the laptop or desktop anymore. I mean, in 2016, 80% of internet users in the U.S. Have a smartphone. So you need to be catering to those people. That's 4 out of 5 people. But the second reason that you need a site is, as this Mashable article that we were mentioning that's down below on our page mentions, it's a key factor for Google now. They're looking for responsive mobile sites, and they're going to list those first in their listings. Now, don't take this as something that's going to happen on Monday. As with all Google tweaks and changes, they roll them out slowly. They roll them out to portions of their audience, which means it's going to probably happen. The thing is, it gives you time to actually respond, and that's why we want to bring you this information now, so that you can, change your website if you need to, or if you're in the process of building a website, making sure you do it right. Like I said, it's a new key factor for Google. They're going to rank the responsiveness of a site, and frankly, the conclusion can be made: if you don't have a mobile version of your site, you're going to rank lower in Google. And that's important because, there are different studies out there, and it's an inexact science, but anywhere from 30 to, 80% of a site's traffic can come from search engines. Think about some of the sites you visit, especially when you're looking for goods and services and things like that. You probably type them into Google, and you probably don't scroll past the first page of results because you trust that you're going to find what you're looking for, usually within the first page, definitely within the first 2, or you're going to go back and tweak your search. I know that's how I operate, almost subconsciously. And so that's why it's really important to cater to Google, is it's a huge traffic source for you. And there are a 2015 study said that over half of all browsing is now done on mobile devices. All right, so this is again talking about your audience, talking about who might be your potential customer. Likewise, over half of all Google searches last year, and this is from Google themselves, over half of all Google searches last year were done from a mobile device. So again, it's sort of one of those things, like if you think that this is just something that you can sort of bide your time, even if Google wasn't going to penalize you for not having a mobile version of your site, this is what people are using to find websites. And again, I implore you to take a look at your own habits. How often do you just look up something really quickly on your phone? Sometimes you may be sitting on your couch, not in front of your computer, not wanting to move and go get your laptop just for something simple, to see if something's available, get some information, whether it's hours or directions or things like that. So think about this. Is definitely a growing trend. And that sort of brings us, we've talked about why you need one. All right. But one of the big questions we got, and we actually got this from a couple people, is the difference between a mobile and a responsive site. All right. So a responsive site is what I'm talking about, what I was talking about earlier. Like the BA Strategy site is a responsive site. It's the same site coded the same way. And we put things in there to tell our web browser that at certain widths, it should start looking different. The layout should be different. Maybe the text should be a different size. The pictures should be a different size. Everything should be ordered differently so that it looks better on that particular size device. And we actually have a specific layout for our desktop, for tablets, and for phones. All right. But again, it's the exact same web address. It doesn't reroute you to some specific different address. And that's the difference between a responsive site and a mobile site, where you might see some sites that have m dot instead of www.site.com. They'll have the M there, and what it does is it recognizes what device you have and reroutes you. And that's sort of the original way of going about having a mobile site. But as web design has advanced, we're sitting here in 2016, as things have advanced and technologies have advanced, responsive is the way to go. Responsive, if you look on the Google blog about this new mobile trend, responsive is the word that they use, because they're not looking for something that reroutes them to a different URL. That's actually going to lose you a couple brownie points. What you want is the same site that looks great on all devices. It may look different on all devices, but it looks great. So that's the difference between a mobile site and a responsive site and how they work. It's essentially telling each element of your site, whether it's a text box, whether it's a headline, whether it's a picture, it's telling the browser, okay, at these different screen widths, change the size, the shape, the orientation. And so it's something that most developers can do. There's a lot of different technologies out there, a lot of different methods, languages, processes, if you will. One of the most widely used is Bootstrap. So if you ever come across that term, Bootstrap, that's one of the most widely used. That's what we use for all of our sites, whether it's an HTML site, just a standard website, or whether it's a WordPress site for some of our clients. We always make sure they're mobile responsive using the Bootstrap protocol. But there are several different ones out there, and it's one of those things that you build into the code so that you don't have to have a separate website, which also means you don't have to pay for separate hosting or separate domain name or a lot of other extras. So there are two ways to go about getting one. As we mentioned earlier, you either have, and I guess this is a good time to sort of go back and say, if anybody's just joining us, the great thing about Facebook Live videos is that they get archived. So head to the BA Strategies page if you want to catch up on some of the stuff we've talked about, what a responsive site is, why you need a responsive site, and some of the statistics, that basically hammer that point home. But the question is, what do you do if you don't have one? Well, the holiday season's coming up, and if you're building a site, maybe you want to sell something for the holidays, or maybe you think that the new year will be a great launching off point for that business you want to start. If you're doing it now and you're not considering a mobile optimized site, do that now. Before you send your site live, make sure you develop the site. You work with yourself. If you're doing it yourself, you work with your web designer. Contact us if you want to, and make sure that it's mobile optimized, that it's a responsive site, because it is much, much easier to do that from the ground up. As you're building the site, thinking about mobile first. I mean, these statistics I'm telling you about, people doing over half of their web browsing from mobile, that was a third just 4 years ago. That number's not going down. So if you think of everything mobile first, you're not only going to set yourself up for 2016, you're going to set yourself up for 2020, right? And so it's always sort of thinking forward. If you do it from the ground up, that's going to help you. That said, if you've already got a site and it's not responsive, it's not mobile optimized. And so when I say responsive, again, I mean mobile optimized. If it's not mobile optimized, it can be retrofitted. We can go in, we can add to the code, all right? And we can, without doing a giant overhaul, let's say you love the way your site looks on a desktop, but it's that pesky process of having to pinch, zoom, click on a mobile device or the text isn't the right size or whatever it is. We can go back and change it so that the text is the right size, so that the picture's scaled down and it's not, going off the screen. And so that things may be realigned so that, you don't have this really wide page on a very vertical mobile view. Because, I mean, you think about it just in the basics of a mobile phone versus a desktop. A laptop is traditionally horizontally oriented. And sure, you can hold your phone like that, but a lot of times when you're typing and browsing the web, a lot of people hold it vertically. So naturally, you're probably going to need a different layout to your site. So we can go in and add those things. So that's the basics of why you need a mobile site. It's the basics of why it's important, why Google values it, and what you can do about it. Again, if you're just building a site, make sure it's mobile responsive first. But if you've already got a site going and it's not mobile responsive, talk to us, talk to your web designer, talk to someone and figure out how you can make it mobile responsive, because it's absolutely necessary. So that's all that we've got on this. You can check out our blog, which has some more tips and tricks about this stuff. That's blog.bastrategies.com. We've got a lot of great advice, not just on this, but several topics. Speaking of which, we're going to take this video and we're going to post it on our blog. I've also mentioned it's going to be archived. So if you're just joining us, you just got here, it's going to be archived down on the BA Strategies page. It's also going to be on our blog where we've got some other great tips. And we're going to try this for a couple of weeks, see how people like it, see what kind of feedback we've got. But if you've got any questions on this, feel free to shoot us a message, BA Strategies. If we're Facebook friends personally, feel free to shoot us one, or contact@bastrategies.com if you'd rather do an email, whatever works. If you've got questions on how this works, and it doesn't have to be a question of how much you want to charge or something like that, it can be just a simple question getting me to clarify one of these points, I'm happy to do it. So just shoot us a note. And like I said, we're going to do this for a couple of weeks, see how it goes. And it's not always just going to be these sort of like hard-hitting, buy from us now. This is something, a service that we can provide to you, because what we really strive for here at BA Strategies is to, help businesses be more productive, help grow their brands, and sort of help them realize their full potential. And part of that is realizing that on something like a mobile web design, that sure, there are a lot of tools out there that people can use to do it, but by letting someone else take it over, you can focus on running your business. But part of your running your business is being productive with your time. So next week we're going to talk about productivity tools, and I've got a few of my favorites that really help me during the work week stay focused, manage all the things. Because if you're a small business owner, I'm a small business owner. That's what this is. So if you're looking for some productivity tools, tune in. We'll do this noon Eastern next Friday, and we'll be posting about it. So feel free to message us any questions you have about that, or if you have suggestions of great tools that you'd like mentioned, shoot us a message on that. We'll be happy to try them out, see what they're like, and give some recommendations. But yeah, if you have any questions on mobile website stuff, feel free to follow up with us, and we'll post the answers on our blog as well to any more questions that we get, so that we can sort of keep this dialogue running. All right, guys, have a great weekend.